Hey there, my name is AJ and I make videos about role-playing games, and lots of them. I upload twice a week with a live stream every weekend. You can also find me on Subscribestar, Patreon and Discord, Facebook and Twitter. Also, there's an option to join the channel as a member, and I welcome any questions you have in the comment section down below. As always, if you like this video or this channel, hit that like button and subscribe if you would be so kind. Don't forget, this video is equipped with subtitles. Please make use of them. The Big Pocket Silicon Battle Mat Kickstarter link in the video description below is going very well. We are at over 140% funded and have 3 unlocked goals available for you to select and add to your opaque or transparent Silicon Battle Mat pledge already. We have the super cheap canvas tote bag coming up, as well as the dice tray and the DM laptop screen cover to unlock yet, and there are more secret unlockable goals along the way, so keep spreading the word to other gamers who need to get in on these super cheap prices. Stock up for the perfect festive presents for gamers and crafters in your life, and this campaign will be over before you know it. Continuing on with our Demon series, while the Nine Hells have the nasty, pathetic little, mostly humanoid blobs called the Lemures, the Abyss has the wretched and hate-filled Manes. Manes forms in any of the countless spawning pits of the Abyss, with a chaotic evil soul is basically tossed out of the multiverse and ends up in the cosmic garbage heap, like a congealed fart of evil, barely even worthy of a physical form. Technically that means that Manes are the petitioners of the Abyss, stripped of all memory of who and what they were while they were living mortal beings elsewhere in the multiverse. They are now chaotic evil souls housed in a new demonic form, almost alive, but in a very different way. I've often compared demons and demonic energy in the way elementals and elemental energy works in the Dungeons & Dragons lore. While the devils are the corrupted forms of celestials, basically demons are the corrupted form of elementals. Not literally, it's much more complicated than that, but it makes it a lot easier to describe their mental and physical traits in the same sort of terms. We have much to discuss about even the most basic of demonic creatures, so sit back, grab yourself a tasty beverage. We're about to get deeply nerdy. Fair warning, we're going to be visiting the spawning pits of the Abyss in this episode. There will be graphic unpleasantness. Manes stand 3 feet or 0.91 meters tall, and though they look squat and bloated, they only weigh 15 pounds or 6.8 kilograms. It becomes clear why they are so lightweight. When slain, their bodies swiftly disperse into a noxious vapor before reforming in the Abyss a day later. Unlike most demons who rise in power based on how many they kill and consume, Manes can also be transformed by the forces of the Abyss itself into more powerful Tanar'ri at random. These random chaotic transformations are highly unpredictable, resulting in something as simple as a Rutakin to as strong as a Vrock. Manes with memories retained from their mortal life are the strong-willed souls that are much more likely to advance like this. And over the eons, some of the most despicable of them have transformed into Balors, or even Molideus, one of the many Lords of Ruin. Like Dretches and Rutakins, chaotic evil mortals occasionally reincarnate into Manes after dying in Thanatos, one of the layers of the Abyss known to house massive necropolis cities of the dead. In the pages of the Book of Vile Darkness, the etchings of Vecna say it was rumoured that the mortals who were the most cruel in life before being turned into Manes were imprisoned in a place called the Pits of Despair, purported to exist hidden underneath the Mountain of Woe. No sage or wizard has truly seen the pits, however, and its existence has never actually been confirmed, or I guess none who have ventured in there have ever returned. The station of Manes is so low on the demonic pecking order that to most Tanar'ri, Manes are viewed as sub-Tanaric monsters, just petitioners worthy of nothing but scorn and contempt. However, since Manes are the former souls of the dead who have found themselves in the Abyss, the number of Manes is always growing, so much so that non-Tanar'ri regard the ever-growing swarms with some amount of dread. A majority of demon lords and demon princes use Manes as a food source. Also, the grim and necrodemonic chaos ships use Manes as a fuel source for their space-warping soul furnace engines. Being consumed in such ways will utterly destroy the petitioner soul of the Manes, but otherwise it's very hard to truly destroy a Manes even on the Abyss. Unless consumed by greater demons or immolated within magical furnaces, they are endlessly cycling through angry gas cloud to the spawning pits and the clawing and spitting mobs of Manes over and over again, Hacking them apart with swords and blasting them to bits with spells is just going to disperse them back to the spawning pits once again. Mains congregate into mobs of dozens or up to teeming swarms that number into the hundreds, which provides some measure of protection just by the sheer mass and ferocity of all the mains thronging and attacking mindlessly together. Demon Lords can direct the mains in one direction or the other, but they don't expect the mains to follow complex instructions. One can try equipping mains with armor and giving them weapons, but unless the weapons are fixed onto their limbs, the mains will discard them, forgetting why they were given weapons. Their lack of intelligence gives them an immunity to magic-level mind control, but greater demons can whip legions of thousands of mains to march toward a target, overwhelming it with snarling, clawing, and crushing mains of masses of mobs. Greater demons can sense the sources of chaos, destruction, and violence as they ebb and flow through the abyss. They can also sense the movement of the native mains, scuttling around like snarling rivers, drawn to sites of violence like moths to a flame. Destruction gives the mains a sense of purpose. It's their one avenue of venting their rage and frustration. They don't really understand their fate. They just hate being weak, stupid, and wretched, and only want to tear down everything else around them before it kills them first. A mains has all the personality of a drowning rat. Although they can't speak, mains are able to understand simple concepts, and as a side effect of their limited Tanari telepathy, they can understand more complex commands made in the snarling and spitting abyssal language. They act simperingly towards higher demons, cowering out of reach. Some will just obey the greater demons' every demand, such as climbing on top of each other to form a squirming throne of mains for the greater demon to perch on. A rare few mains retain fragmented memories of their mortal lives, but in most cases they are animalistic. Occasionally they gain self-awareness needed to recognize the gap in power between them and all that surrounds them, and so fight to improve their positions, a struggle that rarely ends in success. Mains are repulsive creatures. Their bodies, reformed from noxious gases, are riddled with squirming maggots and patches of rancid filth. Their flesh is not as well connected as truly mortal creatures. Mains do have musculature and internal organs, but they won't work the same way mortal creatures do. They have an armor class of 9, 2d6 plus 2, or between 4 and 14 with an average of 9 hit points, and a speed of only 20 feet per round, mainly because they are size category small fiends. They have resistance to cold, fire, lightning, and are immune to being poisoned, charmed, or frightened. They have dark vision with a range of 60 feet, and their claw attack is +2 to hit and inflicts 2d4 slashing damage. They don't have any other sort of magical protection. They can certainly be sliced apart with ordinary weapons. Cold iron or magical weapons are also fully effective. But the mains will reform again some distance away, 24 hours after being reduced to noxious mist. The putrid swamps of churning chaos that comprise the average abyssal spawning pit are dangerous for any ordinary creature to venture near. This is where you will find forests of twisted fungus tainted by Zugdmoy's spores, rotting with Dublex's greedy slimes, spouting hot ponds of gurgling rock and filth with spawning pod demons, then hotter, larger pools of glistening blood and gore, proto-tentacles of intestines, with their eyeballs sprouting like a rash, bubbling geysers as screaming maws full of fangs break the sloppy surface, half-formed limbs thrash and grab at quivering forms, crawling free of the pits, sucking lungs full of air, shrieking as their skin hardens under toxic fumes and heat. All sorts of demonic forms can spawn from the pits. Mostly the constant froth of crawling bodies are mains and dretches. Dretches and mains do not get along. The dretch stands around 4 feet or 1.2 meters tall and weigh around 60 pounds or 27 kilograms. Still runts of demon kind, but far tougher than a miserable mains. You know, considering mains are almost like fart demons barely held together in rotting humanoid form, and the dretches are capable of releasing a 10-foot radius of disgusting green gas that requires creatures not immune to poison to make a DC 11 Constitution saving throw or be poisoned until the start of their next turn. It's not inconceivable that dretches could emerge from the spawning pits, literally farting out clouds that congeal into mains demons. Just saying, the dretches are terrible parents to their fart babies. I'm also all in favour of sufficiently violent demon farts having the potential to spawn mains, and because of the sheer number of mains being spawned all over the place, things just tear most of the mains to shreds. They are never ending after all. Other threats that mains have to contend with, and there are many, include hellhounds. nightmares, spirits of corruption, spirits of death, spirits of undeath, rat demons, demon lords, night hags, chaos beasts, and primordial entities. Mains move relatively slowly and can't get always out of harm's way, such as getting mowed down by soul-devouring chaos engines or torn apart by abyssal dragons simply for being too close to them. Countless mains have been rounded up, captured, and subjected to every kind of foul science, resulting in suits of demon armor, swords, clubs, axes, and shields crafted from the mutilated and twisted demonic flesh. More on that in just a moment. Such experiments take place in the Abyss, where the mains who are experimented on usually get destroyed, to outside of the infinite layers, where the mains either swiftly or mercifully get reduced back to a mist state, so they can reform back in the Abyss within the next day or so. Thankfully, mains typically don't remember much of what happened to them prior to crawling out of the spawning pits once more. They don't know if they've been crawling out of there for weeks, years, or centuries. It's all just day after day of raw emotions, violence, and confusion. It's also a very rare thing for a mains to really have any idea what's going on in the larger picture all around it. They only concern themselves with the needs of the immediate moment. As mentioned, mains can and do absorb random surges of chaotic, evil, demonic energy from the currents of the wretched Abyss itself, which can result in the sudden birthing from the spawning pits of some form of more respectable demonic form, such as a Vrock. Vrocks may occasionally spawn from the same soul stuff as the mains, but they would rather murder someone than ever admit it. When a brand new Vrock rises from the pits with no memory of what it once was, as far as it's concerned, it has always been a Vrock, and all mains are sub-creature scum, only good for torture and eating. Such is the way of the mains. Of course, any demon lord has the influence over the Abyss and the personal power to elevate any lesser demon into a greater form. Orcus is particularly capable of transforming demon minions into greater undead versions of other Tanar'ri forms. He's been known to transform thousands and thousands of mains into abyssal ghouls to quickly and impressively swell the numbers of his dreadful horde of death. Other demon lords exert their own form of influence, and whole mobs of mains and dretches may take on physical and mental characteristics of the demon lord whose influence they have become caught up within. The particular unique blend of chaos and corruption that pours out of that demon lord is soaked up and twists the lesser demons into whatever aspect of evil and mutation that demon lord embodies. If you happen to find yourself stuck in the Abyss somewhere, the exact size, shape, and unusual behaviours of the mains and dretches around you could tell quite a lot about what sort of power rules that particular area of the endless ruination. Mains can be transformed into twisted mutations that are so extreme that no mortal creature could endure them. Demonic weapons and armour are difficult to create, but not because mains are rare, but because so many thousands don't live through the process. Magic chop shops in the riotous camps of the forces of chaos are just clouds of stinking mains gas, and they're filled with their pitiful screams. Greater demons twisting and feeding energy into them to craft axe heads with blade forms from horrifically distended fangs, or hafts made from living leather and bone. Others are compressed husks formed like handles around its grossly distended tongue, as sharp as a sword and sizzling with eternal flames. Perhaps they're even just severed and preserved mains' heads, tongues yanked and knotted around their own neck stump. When the tongue is released and the head tossed, it speaks the last word of a spell and releases an area effect magic of some kind. After going off, the head grenade turns back to noxious mist and reforms another main somewhere else in the spawning pits. In the Abyss, demons are also the weapons used by bigger demons. Demons on demons on demons. Please hit that like button if you made it this far. Subscribe if you like what I do. Check out my Subscribestar or Patreon for all the full scripts for these videos. Buy some Teespring merchandise, wear your geek with pride, and as always, thanks for listening, and I'll be back with more for you very soon.